Take two, since it apparently decided to stop recording after 15 seconds the first time. Hello, everybody. Well, what's going on? We're back, I guess, kinda, sorta. It has been a few years since I made a video, and I'm gonna explain the mess. There's a lot going on. This is because I have a very temperamental cat who very much loves his treats and always wants his treats. But I'm gonna explain all this. There's reasons behind all of this. I'll talk about this too. It's been a while since I made a video, and one of the reasons that I haven't made a video in a while is, well, there's a lot of reasons. Actually, I haven't made a video since we moved. We've been in this apartment 2 years. We're coming on 3 years now. I wanted to go ahead and do this, and I've got dogs creeping on me now because, of course. I've done this kind of video before where I've talked about what's happened and why I haven't recorded. And I could give you the usual stuff: lost motivation, lack of space, just low energy, all sorts of reasons. One, doing builds is really difficult in a confined space. It's actually way more work than it probably needs to be. And it's because you're constantly trying to move things around to get the camera to move around. And after a while, you just get to a point where you're just like, I just want to be done. I did record the rebuild of my computer a year and a half ago. I did. And I'll talk about that. And I'll throw some B-roll on there. I have all that footage still. It never made the light of day because, well, I hadn't done this in a very long time and I'm bad at it. And I didn't focus things correctly a bunch. So we're using autofocus today. I have no idea how well this is actually going to work. I'm hoping that it focuses on the right thing, but I've never actually gone in and done the autofocus correctly the way I should have. It should just be looking for my face and it doesn't. We'll roll with it. It'll be fine. But I've been busy. I started playing a lot of video games. It's really one of the biggest truths that I could give you. I started playing a lot of video games and, oh, hello, you've come to say hi now. And that's probably the biggest factor. I just got busy playing video games. I started making videos for my friend All Time Brianna. You should check her out. I'll link her in the YouTube description. We've done some fun stuff over there. But I also just got frustrated with the state of the PC industry. And the reality here was that the PC industry really became just a collection of what happened this time. So every week it felt like something really awful was happening. You know, cases catching fire, power supplies exploding, companies denying RMAs, retailers denying RMAs, oxidation with Intel CPUs. You could go on and on. I'm not even going to try and list it all because it's just so much. And that kind of killed a lot of it. I know post-pandemic, there was just a lot of just issues across the board. And you just get to a point where you just want to kind of just get into your own little world and just enjoy it. And that's what I did. I rebuilt my system. I went to AMD. I was still doing water cooling. I went from a 3900X to a 5900X, and I just enjoyed it. I had a good time. But about a year and a half ago, I realized that the 1080 Ti, as great as it's been, was finally starting to fall behind, and I made a decision to change things out. And so I knew I was going to be rebuilding. It was time to probably get away from a custom loop, and look, I went for it. I bought a new motherboard, the Crosshair Dark Hero. I bought new fans, so we've got infinity fans in the top and the bottom. Those are reverse blades. We got the TL LCDs in the rear, also reverse blade. I have thoughts on those. We'll talk about that maybe in another video. I got the Be Quiet Pure Loop 2 because I enjoyed the Pure Loop so much, and this one had RGB. And I obviously bought a case, Lee 011 Dynamic Evo XL. I just really wanted to build in one of these, and this was a good opportunity to do so. I bought a new boot drive, a Samsung 980 Pro, 1 terabyte. And I rebuilt it, and I recorded it. And then I did nothing with it. And now my cat rolls around on my computer. We've had this guy for 3 years now. Say hello to Arbalist. One of the reasons I got away from custom loops is, well, custom loops are a lot of maintenance. And while the maintenance part isn't really all that bad, I think people make it worse than it actually is. The reality was that blocks for products were becoming very expensive. And while I had an AMD block that I could still use even today, I was not going to find a GPU block, at least a readily accessible GPU block, for anything less than an 80 series graphics card. And I had settled on the 4070 Ti Super. In fact, this is the Asus Tough Edition. And while I did see some that may have been compatible, they were all like $250, $300. And I just was at a point where I don't want to spend that money anymore. So I went back to traditional setup, and it has been fantastic. I know there are some people who don't like that the pump is on the tubes. It's never bothered me. The system is refillable. I think Be Quiet made a pretty good product here. The reason I did the update though is because I started to see the frame rate issues in certain games, Phasmophobia being one of them, where I turned on my frame rate counter and saw I was getting 45 to 50 frames. And that was kind of my cue to get the new GPU. And so my performance increased pretty exponentially from there, 90 to 100, and I enjoyed it. I was having a good time. And then Borderlands came out, Borderlands 4 released. I'll tell you what, I know a lot of systems have had trouble with it, but it hit my 5900X real hard, 90 to 100% utilization. My friend Faded has the same CPU. He talked about the same thing. The stuttering was really bad. Frame rate was under 60 pretty much the entirety of the time. And then they did their stability patches, which actually made things worse. My frame rate actually dipped another like 5 to 10 frames. And I started having pretty regular crashing, like 2 to 3 times per play session. And we would play for 5 or 6 hours. I had wanted to initially update back in the fall of 2024, but I'm glad I waited. And the reason I'm glad I'm waited is because in the meantime, one, they solved a lot of the problems that they had with 9800X 3Ds kind of exploding in the motherboards, although ASRock is still having issues. But also the 9950X 3D came out. And that one, when I saw reviews for that, was incredibly tempting. I actually told my friend I was flip-flopping so frequently on it that I just was losing my damn mind. So I went to Micro Center. I was either going to come home with a 9800X 3D and an Asus motherboard, or a 9950X 3D and an Asus motherboard. And I ended up coming home with a 9950X 3D, a gigabyte motherboard, and a Lee & Edge 1000-watt power supply because I figured it was time. I also have 64 gigs of G.Skill Trident Z 6000 mega transfer memory in there. So I came back and I rebuilt and I got things up and running, and I had some stability issues early on. I was kind of playing around with PBO, kind of seeing what each setting was going to do. And as of right now, as of recording this, it is October 21st. I've kind of settled on what feels like a pretty safe PBO setting, and that is motherboard limits. Take that with a grain of salt. I have a negative 25 curve on CCD 0. I have a negative 20 on CCD 1, and I have a 25 megahertz offset on the core clock. I also have it set to throttle itself at 85 degrees because when you run Cinebench and OCCT and any other stress test, it just immediately shoots the temperatures up to the thermal limits. And I just wanted to keep that somewhat under control just in case it was giving too much voltage. I don't think it is. I've been watching the voltages in Hardware Info 64. Everything seems to be pretty much in line, but just wanted to be sure. So I've had no freezes. Everything is working. All the RGB is set up the way that it's supposed to, except for the GPU because I'm not installing Aura on this thing. Everything is cooperating right now and I just want to roll with it. But that has left me with a surplus of parts again, and that's kind of what brings me to this. Some of these things are going to go to my kids' build. I'm going to be taking that thing apart. I'm going to stream it over on twitch.tv/DVK Media. She's getting my power supply. She's getting my motherboard, the Crosshair Dark Hero. She's getting my old CPU, the 5900X. She's getting my 1080 Ti, which I put the air cooler back on several months ago and only just recently got a chance to see if it produced a video signal. It did. I still need to make sure it actually will run games and everything without any issues, but we got a video signal, which was a good start. She's getting a new boot drive, so Crucial P310. This is a Gen 4 NVMe, 500 gigs. That's all she needs. And I'm going to give her one of my old 860 EVOs because the only downside to this motherboard, as someone who had 5 SATA hard drives connected, is it only had 4 SATA ports. I had to cut one of them out. Luckily, I had actually an NVMe sitting around that I wasn't using, my old Intel SP660, which was my game drive. This board has 4 M.2s, 3 of which go to the CPU. I think they're all Gen 5s, but I don't have any Gen 5 drives, so it doesn't matter. So I was able to throw that NVMe in there, and I'll just give her the 1 terabyte. I'm not gonna really need it. I also discovered that I have this Western Digital Blue SATA M.2, which I'm gonna put onto the test bench as a sort of an extra drive. I don't understand. I don't even remember buying it, but I have it, so here we are. And yeah, she's gonna get a little bit of an upgrade. I'm gonna retire the 8700K and the Maximus. I'm actually gonna put some shelves on the wall behind where the camera is, and I'm going to put those up on display along with my X99 board because that was the first computer that I built, first high-end computer. And I want them to live out their days as centerpieces. Which brings me to this. I'm going to put my test bench back together. I now have the parts to do it. Yeah, because she's getting my memory, I should mention, my 32 gigs of G.Skill Trident Z. I'm going to rebuild my test bench, and I'm going to take the memory she has in her system, put it in there. So I think it's 32 gigs of G.Skill Trident Z, but just the black and white kit. I'm going to use my custom loop stuff. So I'm going to put my Quantum Kinetic TBE on the left side over here. I'm going to run the tubes somewhere either underneath or around the back. I'm going to put a radiator over here. I'm going to put these Corsair QL fans on there. And we're going to run my 3900X in my old Asus X570 Gaming F motherboard with the 1070 that's in her build right now. And we're going to get a test bench up and running. It'll be nice because I'll be able to start playing around with stuff that I haven't been able to play around with. I mostly want to use it initially to kind of play around with IQ again and kind of get a feel for it. I don't use Corsair in my builds for a reason, but I do want to be at least familiar with it because my kid's sister just recently got a Corsair keyboard. And I also want to test out like Signal RGB and Open RGB and kind of get back into the RGB side of things because I still get questions from people on those products, you know, how to do things, how to connect things, what happens when this happens. And I feel like there's an opportunity there. I want to kind of have the ability to test those things out and not potentially completely incapacitate my system. Beyond that, I don't really have any promises for videos. A lot of it just comes down to whether I actually want to sit down and do this and get things configured. I have a very nice long lane in this room that I could use, but it's still pretty limiting. And one of the things I've kind of started to maintain is that I'm not going to fully delve back into content creation until I have a much bigger space. And I kind of want to stick to that. But I do have thoughts on AMD versus Intel and how the roles have just completely flipped in the last 10 years. And I kind of want to recap some of the drama that has taken place in the PC space, from NZXT trying to light people's houses on fire to Gigabyte's exploding power supplies to all the other things that have gone on. And I also kind of want to reminisce on my builds. I want to talk about my X99 build and my history with Asus and Fantex and all these companies that I've just kind of messed around with. And I want to do it in a way that is respectful to the product because I know Asus has had some issues with its brand over the last couple of years. Everybody seemingly has, but I've had nothing but good things to say about their products, including this guy right here. Again, my GPU is an Asus TUF. All my GPUs have always been Asus. This Gigabyte board is the first deviation, and I like it, don't get me wrong, but it did take a minute for me to kind of get a handle on how things worked in the BIOS and how to get things configured. But I also just kind of want to enjoy things. I don't want to do things just because I feel like I have to, and that's sort of been the key to me recently. I want to get into a little bit more of the gaming side. I actually do want to talk about the performance issues. I have clips from when I was on the 5900X, as well as now on the 9950X3D. And I want to talk about that CPU in particular because there's something about it that has just really reinvigorated me in ways that I wasn't truly expecting. Can I help you? Do you feel like you need to be part of this? He's truly the best cat. And so there are things that I could talk about. I just have to have the motivation to do it and to get things set up. But I think I'm getting things configured in a way that makes sense. Again, there's a wall, a small section of wall that I just want to put some shelves on. I want to put some floating shelves up there. I have a ceiling LED strip that I'm actually going to drop to the floor level. I'm going to run it along the door frame. So I have a door over there. I have a closet door over there, and I just want to run that along. And that'll give some nice lighting for those products. And I might even take some of the Govee like light bars that I have and stick them behind if I can, to kind of give some additional illumination. So I have some ideas on how I'm going to make this a little bit more content friendly of a room, but it's still a very small space. And having this table right here is actually really eating into a lot of that space right now. And I need to get this stuff done. So to conclude, I'm not promising anything. I'm going to try and work on some stuff. I am going to stream the teardown and rebuild of my kid's PC. So twitch.tv/DavidKMedia if you want to see that. It might even be this upcoming weekend. TBD. I would say follow me on socials, but I only use Blue Sky at this point in time, and I don't post very often. So I guess just follow me on Twitch if you really want to find out, or just look for the VOD. When I do actually do it, I will at least if nothing else, download and upload the VOD. I'm not going to record locally, just not really necessary. But I'm going to rebuild her system and get it up and running and get her in a much better environment. And then I'm probably going to just do a video putting this together, setting up the loop and getting things ready to go. Again, I'm excited about this. I actually put this bench back together a couple of days ago and it felt good. It felt good to feel like I could finally do some of the stuff I've been missing out on for the last couple of years. So that's going to do it for now. I'm going to end this because it looks like the cat's going to rub up against the tripod leg, and who knows what's going to happen when he does that. Also, people are going to be coming home soon, and my kid's sister is a yeller when it comes to Fortnite, and I'm just not trying to have that. And when I mean a yeller, I mean like blood-curdling loud. In fact, we've been kind of poking fun at her because she goes from 0 to 100, then back down to 0 in the span of about 10 seconds. And it's actually really funny to listen to, but it's not great for the background of video. So I'm going to get out of here. I hope you enjoyed it. It's good to do something. I'm hoping that this looks okay. I'm going off a 5.5-inch monitor on top of my camera, which I'm hoping to upgrade at some point because it's just not a great solution. And we'll see what happens down the road. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.